Great. Welcome everyone to the Town of Greater Napanee regular session of council for the 10th day of November 2025. Just before we call this evening's meeting to order, I'd like to remind everyone that this evening's meeting is being live streamed via our YouTube channel. So welcome to the folks that are here in the body of council chambers. Welcome to those that are at home watching, and welcome to those that will watch us at a later date, be it tomorrow, the next day, or next week. So welcome everyone. As always, we'll start this evening's meeting with our opening proceedings, which is the playing of the national anthem. I'll ask that the folks that are here in council chambers just to remain standing after the national anthem so that we can have a moment of silence for our veterans in light that Remembrance Day is tomorrow. So if you could just remain standing after the national anthem, I would appreciate it. Thank you. So, yep, go ahead, John. And thank you everyone at home for your indulgence. We'll start this evening meeting out with our closed session meeting. We had a closed session meeting this evening pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act. We'll look for a motion to rise and report from closed session, moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. I'd like to report coming out of closed session this evening that we approved the closed session minutes of October 28th, received a report regarding land sales and gave direction to staff, and received a report regarding negotiations and gave direction to staff. I'd also look for a motion coming out of closed session that council direct staff to initiate the public notice process to permanently close up the portion of the unopened road allowance intersecting to the north of Newburgh Road and running parallel between Camden Road and Crouch Street for the purpose of consolidating it with the former Suttard subdivision lands in preparation for a public sale. Now look for a mover and a seconder on that. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Look for a motion for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll start this evening's agenda off with scheduled deputations, new items. And first on the agenda is Tiffany Lloyd with respect to the guitars and cars follow-up. So welcome, Tiffany. I know you've been here, but I'll give you just a little bit of a reminder that the microphone in front of you is only live when you push and hold the talk button. So you have to hold it down so the folks at home can hear the great news I know you're going to tell us. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor Richardson and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to report back on guitars and cars. This year's event showed what true community collaboration looks like. With the town and the county aligned on closures, safety, and communication, everything clicked. After years, when pieces didn't always line up, we are now on the same page and it shows. I'm just gonna, I think, oh, it went too far. There we go. Using conservative estimates from Deputy Mayor's Calver's drone footage, crowd photos by the county's contracted photographer, Garrett Elliott, and various other metrics, we welcomed approximately 5,000 people downtown. Based on standard same-day visitor spending, that's over $300,000 in direct economic impact, reflected by market vendors selling out, restaurant lineups, shopping bags throughout the core, and classic cars parked at local hotels. We also raised $5,500 for local partners, Napanee Fire Rescue, the Toys for Kids, the Napanee Legion, and the Lennox and Addington County General Hospital Foundation. On participation, 335 vehicles registered. However, we are confident that just over 400 took part throughout the day. Among the 335, many communities were represented. The top 5 were from all around Greater Napanee, Belleville, Kingston, Trenton, and Picton. But we also had participants from Quebec and across all of Ontario. Online, sponsor mentions, event content reached hundreds and thousands of impressions across southeastern Ontario. I didn't get a picture of them on the day, so that's the picture we're using. We were a little busy, but a very special thank you to Napanee Valley Cruisers. I can tell you the color of a car, and that's on a good day. And on the good day of the make and model, but I am certainly not a car show expert. Steve and Deb Lowry are. This would not have been possible without them and their whole team of volunteers. You're in here too. So thank you as well to the town and county teams, Napanee Fire Rescue, the Legion, LACGHF, the Chamber of Commerce for hosting the market, of course, our arts, culture, and heritage groups for the full schedule of in Market Square, our sponsors, and many volunteers. This was a whole community effort. Elena actually asked me made an edit here at the end. She really wanted me to add a special thank you to your worship. When we filled out the forms from the town this year, we didn't include garbage pickup, and that's on us. That was a mistake we made, but you made sure there wasn't bags of food lying in the street all weekend. So thank you for that. We recently met with staff to discuss infrastructure and road closure refinements and are exploring modest capacity additions to safely accommodate for some more vehicles while keeping emergency accesses clear. We are also simplifying pre-registration and expanding volunteer coordination. I want to draw attention to and recognize the improvement in municipal coordination. In the past years, I've come to you and said this isn't working for community events, and this year the process was the most straightforward yet. Thank you for hearing those concerns and making the changes needed to get here. Greater Napanee Connect is new, but in a short time, we've begun to prove ourselves as an asset. Our mandate is to promote Napanee, spotlight culture, recreation, heritage, and build local pride and drive economic activity through tourism and storytelling. Guitars and Cars is one example. The 500 tourism maps that were distributed and are almost gone from locations are another. Next up is a Christmas countdown to keep holiday spending local and businesses from as far south as Loyalist Trading Company to as far north as Can-Do Information Technology and many others in between, partnering to bring people through the door with shoppers eligible to win thousands of dollars in prizes. I'm not asking for anything tonight. This is just simply a thank you. But given the measured return, six-figure same-day spending, funds to local organizations, 2 editions of a tourism map, our upcoming Christmas initiative, we would welcome the town's continued collaboration and support to keep barriers low, strengthen community engagement, support local businesses and organizations, and help us keep telling a strong Napanee story. We are a small group of very busy volunteers, supported by other very busy volunteers, and we've already accomplished a lot. Imagine what we could do with just a little bit more. We're proud of what this event delivered for the community and excited to build on it for next year, and equally excited to share what we have up our sleeves for the future. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Deputy. Just hang tight. We'll see if anybody from council has any questions for you. Go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Tiffany. I know I've already thanked you and everybody else that I saw that day. Have you got the date for 2026 yet? Because I'd really like to put it in my calendar.
September 26th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? Seeing none, thank you, Tiffany. I think the event shows who we are as a municipality. Just absolutely marvelous work done by you and your team and all the people that volunteered to make this thing happen. And it reinforces, at least in my mind, is that you allow the people that know what they're doing to do what they do and then get the heck out of the way. So I want to thank you for that. And please pass on to all your, I know Deb and Steve are here tonight, but please pass on to all your volunteers and all the people that helped, how grateful we are for what you've done for the municipality, and I know will continue to do for us. So thank you. Having said that, we'll look for a motion to note and receive the deputation of Tiffany Lloyd, Guitars and Cars follow-up. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion's carried. Next presentation, we have CarbonFree Group, introduction of proposed IESO LT2 project. So come on up, folks. I don't think we've met before, but we'll give you the Reader's Digest version of how this works. You'll see that there's microphones in front of you and the button that says talk, you have to push it and you have to hold it down. And because if you don't, then that way the folks at home don't hear what you have to say. And correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Clerk, we have some folks coming in remotely, or do we not? Or
I think we have a couple of attendees, though they're not really, they're on our team and they're just observing.
okay, so if there's something we need to ask them, then and you'll be able to tell us whether they're the folks that we need to talk to or not. So thank you, gentlemen. And just for the record, if we get you to both provide your names for the clerk so she has it for the record.
Sure thing. So thank you, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and members of the public that may be online attending, for allowing us to be here this evening. My name is Doug Deeks. I'm responsible for project development with CarbonFree in Ontario. And with me is...
I'm Magid Sami. I'm responsible for engineering at CarbonFree. Thanks for having me.
And hiding in the gallery is our manager of business administration, who would prefer not to be addressed. If all is well, I'll get started.
Yep, the floor is yours. So go ahead, sir.
Let me just practice. Not too bad. So I know you've had other battery projects come through, and ours isn't terribly dissimilar from that. And so I'll focus on our project. The location obviously is unique, our community engagement, the partners involved, and the municipal benefits. I and Maged are happy to speak to batteries in general, technology, fire, safety, environment. But we'll start with the unique pieces, but the questions can go anyway, as it's a developed project. But I appreciate that you've invested considerable time and staff has invested time on the subject of batteries and the IESO and the current procurement process. Just a bit about CarbonFree. We're a Canadian-based, Ontario-based, privately held company developing energy projects, starting here in Ontario, but have worked further afield in the United States and more recently in South America and Chile, where there's been similar programs with Ontario back into the energy procurement business. We've been working hard on both our prime business of solar and also with battery storage. So we've recently produced a few solar projects for IESO's procurement that concluded in October, mostly in Northern Ontario, though we do have a couple of developments just immediately east and north of here as well, which I'll speak to. Our history has been one of success. Our projects have done very well. There's 4 big projects in Ontario that CarbonFree developed in the last round of projects, and our projects have been substantially partnered with First Nations. In this case, this project that we're proposing to the community here would be partnered with MBQ, Mohawks PECUNIARY, and they're as much as that chief and council will make a decision on that this week. They're happy for us to present that to you this evening. So I think I've run through that. There's a visual just of the general location. I've got a second one coming up, but we're in Ward 2, just down River Road and just north of the transmission line that runs through there. Just on the entrance would be really just about a kilometer north on River Road from the transmission line. So just a bit on CarbonFree. Kingston Solar, which I think many of you are probably familiar with, if not by name, by visual on the north and south side of the 401, just east of here. So that was a Samsung project, but CarbonFree was actually the partner that developed that project. In addition to that, Southgate Solar was the first agrivoltaic solar project in Ontario. Agrivoltaic being the combination of agriculture and solar together on the same lands. That project was developed on an existing sheep operation. It was integrated into that operation with input from the landowner and continues to operate successfully from a landowner perspective, community, agricultural production, and of course, solar energy. Our opening slide was Grand Renewable Solar, which is also a very large 100 megawatt solar project, which was developed with Samsung 2015, and that is just south of London. Good experience in the area. Currently, we do have 2 projects proposed, one up in Stone Mills Township and one in Loyalist, both solar projects, but not operating in IESO's direct procurement, but operating in the power purchase agreement space, and that's why they weren't entered in the last round, but those projects are in early stage in any case. This project just off of River Road, just in terms of relevance, the footprint, about 20 acres, the size up to 250 megawatts of connection capacity to the grid with 8 hours of deployable resource. Up to only because within the IESO guidelines and rules, there'll be some alternates that are bid in there. So 250 would be the maximum, but there'll likely be an alternate at 200 and an alternate again at 150. But what we're talking about is the maximum size here. It wouldn't be anything larger than what we're asking for here. Closest houses, this project would be set back from the road. It wouldn't be road adjacent, so it would be at the back of the property. And that puts it about 700 meters distance from the nearest residences along River Road. There's just a set that the image shows the turquoise is the transmission line. The red is a setback, mandatory setback from Hydro One's transmission line for the battery itself at about 100 meters. And that's how we wind up with that place there. Otherwise, the timeline for this project is the same as your other projects that have been proposed. Mid-December, proposed to the IESO. Our engagement strategy is active currently. We are booked for an open house on the 26th of November in the arena. We've got door knocking going on this week in adjacent, about 1 kilometer to the south and down to the transmission line, and 1 kilometer to the north along River Road. And there's a couple of properties on the next road south that will bring direct awareness to, though there'll be a a notice and invitation to the public meeting hand delivered this week as well. There'll also be a property sign, like just a sign advising that the project, along with the open house, that should be on the property, like roadside where somebody could see it this week. I mentioned MBQ, and then we're here doing the municipal support. Not that we're requesting the resolution tonight. This is just intended project introduction. We understand we're at the front end of our process, and we'll bring the results of these engagements back to staff. We're actively working with staff currently, and as part of their staff report, we'll have the results from these meetings, including key questions and concerns raised by the community and how the project intends to address some of those primary concerns. I'm just gonna skip technology for the time being. Safety concerns and risks, environmental safety, and happy to come back to these. I don't mean to make short shrift of them. So I feel like I'm gonna double skip like guitars and cars. I'm gonna go one more. So just in terms of municipal benefits, we understand that there's some precedent established, and while we haven't discussed this with staff, our intention would be to be commensurate with community benefits agreements, similar to what you've seen from others, but we'll work that out. So by the time this comes forward for council resolution, that would be formal. We're also aware that if a contract was awarded in the period of time from that contract being awarded to the project being constructed and commissioned, there's significant effort, time, and costs affiliated with that. And we had proposed a secondary community benefit during that period, which before the project goes COD, to support the municipality on its costs that are associated with the development of the project. Just in terms of our partners, we're working, the site that we're looking at right now is being evaluated by our environmental engineering partner, Hatch, their major Canadian engineering firm, looking at to establish that those lands are suitable, as much from a zoning perspective and everything, all of our precursing work that does look the case. This is just to add to the staff reports for the project to verify a third party that the lands could be suitable for the project. We're also working with a planning entity called Photon. I think your staff are familiar with that entity, just on our planning engagement, again, to make sure that we've got professional inputs coming into the project. And that is the extent of the partners that are engaged in the project today with CarbonFree. Of course, I don't have my glasses on, but looking at, I think you're familiar with the other sorts of benefits that come along with these projects. Should it be awarded, we'll certainly look to local contracting and support as much as it'll be contract with the general contractor, both with MBQ itself, but also with the broader community to try employ as many both skilled and unskilled labor as is possible for the project. At that, I think I've covered off the more, not that they're entirely unique, but just the project specifics. I would ask for questions, and I'm happy to go into detail on any of the other aspects of the project, particularly with regards to its fundamental design, its technology, its safety, and our plans in terms of engagement with both fire and community safety. Could I leave that and call for questions?
Yep, great. Appreciate that, sir. Just hang tight. And I know that sometimes we have a lot of questions, but we'll get through that. But Deputy Mayor Cower.
Thank you, through your worship. So I see your site entrance here, the green line coming in off of County Road 9. There's a quarry in there, a stone quarry that's water's in there, and there's fish and stuff in there, and so on and so forth. How far away from that quarry are you looking at putting your battery storage?
So we're down, and that is a proposed entrance. So we've proposed that to staff. We don't know if that would be an acceptable entrance or not, but given that there's an existing entrance there to multiple properties, but just so you know, we haven't been entirely assumptive on that. We're still waiting for feedback from staff that would be an appropriate entrance point. In terms of the setbacks that'll be specific to those features, that's going to come out of Hatch's assessment. So they'll help us define what those setbacks should be. In terms of what we've pictured, that is input from our environmental consultants, but we'll have an update for that before, for staff before this comes back for you to deliberate on whether a resolution would be appropriate or not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I know that you folks are sort of at the early stages of this. And oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Hicks. Yeah, okay. We realize that you're at the early stages of this, so and I think we realize you've probably got a lot of ground to cover between now and early December, when you'll come back and report as to how you made out with the community engagement and partnerships with Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte and things like that. So yeah, these battery storage units aren't foreign to us, that's for sure. So we look forward to see how you make out with that. But go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Hi, good evening. Thank you for coming. First question, site security. So 24/7 monitoring, and this is a question that comes up every single time. Where's the guy sitting that's doing the monitoring? Is he here? Is he in the US? Is he somewhere else?
I think the answer is both, but I'm going to ask Megan to speak to that.
Sure. So, so there's two parts to the monitoring. There's the site security monitoring in terms of sort of physical security. So the perimeter of the site is monitored with cameras to ensure that there's no trespassing and so on. That is usually, it's something that would be contracted to a local security firm that is able to respond accordingly. Then there's another layer of monitoring, which is the monitoring of the facility itself, its operations, everything down to the temperature of every individual cell in those batteries. And that will most likely be monitored by two different groups. It would be by a group that does operations for us or for the owner of the project, but also there's usually an operations and maintenance contractor who will have their staff that will have it usually monitored 24/7 up in a big sort of control room setting. There are some control rooms in Canada that have that capability, and certainly there's going to be requirements by the IESO that we will have to abide by in terms of when and where and how and response times and so on. There's going to be also layers of redundancy to ensure that 24/7 monitoring is there. So 2 internet connections and redundancy on other systems within the site as well. If there's power loss, if there's anything else, we make sure that data is flowing to where it needs to go and to make sure that there's always someone there watching it.
That was the answer I expected. Okay, thank you. I didn't expect anything different from what we've been told before. And may I ask, when you talk about, and I don't know where this slide is, but host agreements, when you say host, are you referring to the municipality itself, or are you referring to the lands? And can you tell me, if you can't, that's fine, I understand. Are you proposing to lease property, or are you buying it outright?
So in this case, these lands are under option to lease. We do have a project to your east in Loyalist, and we would own those lands, but it's just circumstantial to the lands whether the landowner wants to sell or lease as to that. But we are both landowner in some project cases, and we're lease in others. Sorry, but the host question in your case is host community. It's not meant to be the land's host. It is meant to refer to Greater Napanee in this case.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope you can appreciate that a lot of our concerns are always centered around our residents and how it's going to affect them. So the project you're proposing is kind of out of an area from where our other projects were suggested. So you're going to be in an area where there's residential kind of across County Road 9 there. There's waterfront properties. And what they always tell me is they're concerned about noise, like a humming or whatever the noise might be. and how it carries in the night air especially. Water pollution certainly for their well water. Light pollution, is it going to be lit up so bright that, you know, so those three things I just wanted you to comment on.
So I think if we start with noise, the noise study will be conducted on that site and using the receptors of the properties both to the north on River Road, but also to the south. Those until that noise study is done, that noise study will have to meet a threshold of noise under both what the municipal guideline is, but also from the IESO. So until we know what that looks like, we won't know what the noise impact is. But when we push the setback to 700 meters, it's our expectation that based on that we've eliminated a distant hum from the project. If we were at 300 meters, I believe you're talking about the sound of a refrigerator compressor. So at 700 meters, we're looking to have dropped below 20 decibels. However, it is the specifics of the noise study using the receptors, which would be those houses in the area, to really define that and make sure that the project is meeting an acceptable standard as likely is going to be directed by your planning department. Let's jump to number 3. Well, I remember number 2, but light. So light, the key with light is that it's directed down. So you have what's that expression for no, but night sky preservation, night sky light. Well, not so any, but dark sky. So directing light down to what it's trying to light up. So you know, solid backed lighting directed down at the gates at the security side of it. Again, how bright that will be, we'll look to staff on the planning side to give us some direction on that. But we're sensitive. We do not want to have like a night skiing venue sitting out there. Number 2. Oh, water. Excuse me. So and if we've heard this come up, there's a couple of concerns about water, particularly homes that are on wells. So groundwater pollution from the siting of the project itself, there's really no risk. There's no liquids within these cells. That's not to say there isn't a risk of some type of disaster, but that comes through again in the safety and design plan for the project, which again is going to go through staff. But we've had some concerns on well water where excessive construction, including soil compaction, road construction is affecting water tables. So that's been brought to our attention. I think again where we try to use existing access roads. Like the project we've cited in Loyalist uses an existing wind turbine access road, so no new development needs to be made to limit the amount of impact around the surrounding area. While the site itself, of course, will have impact to it, but I think when it comes to understanding those pieces and then the design, not so much of the system, but the design of the construction has to be considerate to the area, and that we're using designated paths that are approved for the movement of heavy equipment, and then recognizing for the community that we understand these are concerns and we'll take them. We're 2+ years away from even commencing construction. That within the design phase and the planning stage mostly, that how are we going to accommodate those issues on this specific site? So in this specific site, I don't know what those answers are yet, but that'll be part of our process to make sure we're answering those concerns, not just but specifically to the members that are asking them.
If I can add to that a few sort of technical points on like those 3 items are big focal points for the design, and we're making sure to design these systems to address them. For example, with respect to noise, we're using equipment that is, 3rd, 4th generation equipment from suppliers that have been building battery energy storage systems for many years, and these newer iterations are designed to be a lot quieter. So there's a technological advancement there that we're taking, we're making sure we're building to. With respect to things like water contamination or water, the site itself, as Doug said, the best containers don't contain any fluids. The only fluids really within the facility would be within transformers. And we're making sure, as with most developers these days, to use really vegetable oil in the transformers. So they're no longer toxic mineral oils. And in any case, they will be built with containment systems underneath them. And that's really the only fluid in these systems. And finally, with respect to light, we are quite flexible. The only need for light is really security, and there are alternatives. Thermal cameras is one of them. And so, the design can be very flexible to meet these needs.
Thank you. I assume that you'll be coming back to us once you get all the specifics worked out and give us a little more info then too. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, great. Thanks, Councillor Martin. Councillor Shank.
My only concern is that, like you said in your presentation, that, you're going to be 2 years of doing this study, that study, to make sure this is appropriate, this isn't appropriate. So what I'm a little cautious of, but I'll wait until all the facts are presented, is that you waited so late to start this process, and then within 30 days, you'd like to have a municipal support resolution. All right. When you yourself said, there's a lot of things that within the last 2 years, we've had a lot of other best sites that have came and started a lot earlier. So, but you know what? Go through the public consultation and everything else, and we'll find out exactly where we lie and where we don't lie, and we'll go from there. I just being honest. That's all.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that our timing is rushed in terms of coming in at this time. With actually a couple of these projects, we have actually been after them for, I shouldn't say after, we've been working on them for quite some time, but initially in this case and the project in Loyalist, we were looking at them as solar potential. So we do have a reasonable background with the lands themselves. We have decided to apply them, just given their location with the transmission line right there, their suitability for battery. We have that was more last minute, but we've actually got a longer history with the lands themselves from an energy development perspective, which I appreciate isn't a great answer, but nevertheless, we didn't turn them over. At least we didn't turn them over last week, and now we're here this week in terms of that regard.
Yep, great. Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Is there any other questions or comments? I don't see any. Thank you, gentlemen.
Could I?
Yep, go ahead.
I think one thing where you are looking at multiple battery proposals, the community, whether it's a positive or a negative, there's not that much chance that all of these projects would be successful. They are competing with each other. It's a relatively small procurement for the IESO. They're only targeting 600 megawatts. You have 750 proposed just here, which is just to say that's for that's 600 megawatts is for the province. We've got project proposals in Northern Ontario, as well as these ones in Eastern Ontario. There's projects in Southwestern Ontario, Central Ontario, which is just to say it will be a very competitive round, but and given the capacity limitations, there's only room in each area for so much. So I don't think you're looking at a runaway on this. I give an example just on the noise. Like when we talk about latest generation, it can be a little bit empty, but to give you, the original cooling systems for these was fan driven. And so the noise, the batteries themselves don't make any noise. There's not even a hum. The transformers have a hum, and the noise actually comes from the cooling systems. But moving to liquid cooled technologies. So now you've got radiant cooling combined with some fan based, but you've reduced the volume of fan noise, and that's what's actually reducing the noise. Just in terms of what that evolution is, how do we reduce the noise? Well, let's move to a different cooling system, and that's how you get lower noise by a combination of cooling systems applied as opposed to single fan driven systems.
Oh, great. Great. I appreciate that. If there's nothing else, thank you, gentlemen. As we hear more and more of these things, get easier because we're being trained as to how these things work and why they work and that kind of stuff. So thank you for your time. Good luck with, I know you've got a lot of work to do in the next 5 or 6 weeks, so good luck with that. And I'm sure we'll see you back in early December.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Look for a motion that Council Note receive the deputation from CarbonFree Group regarding a proposed IESO LT2 project. Moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. On deputations, items on the agenda, I don't believe we have any. Correspondence, items on the agenda, I don't believe we have any. Unfinished business, I don't believe we have any. It gets us right into the administrative consent agenda. First on the administrative consent agenda is the council minutes, regular session of council, October 28th, 2025. Is there anything in those minutes anyone has any questions or comments about? Seeing none. Committee minutes, Market Square Advisory Committee and Municipal Heritage Committee and the Arts Advisory Committee. Is there anything in those minutes that anyone has any questions or comments about, or is there anything in those minutes that any of the members of council want to expand upon? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. The Heritage minutes pretty well speak for themselves, but I just wanted to point out to council, our last meeting, we just want to make sure that the Heritage Committee is consulted on the project at the rear of Town Hall. We feel it could affect the heritage designation, so we just want to be part of the mix. So I just wanted to point that out in case somebody mixes that. So, but the rest of it's good. Thanks.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Bill, and it'll be duly noted. So, is there anything else? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is correspondence for information items dated November 10th, 2025. Is there anything in those correspondence for items anyone has any comments about or would like to speak to? Seeing none. Executive Services update on the parking bylaw review project. Is there anything in that report anyone has any questions or comments about? Seeing none. Boards and Advisory Committees monthly report for November 2025. Is there anything in that report anyone would like to speak to or ask any questions about? Seeing none. Growth and Infrastructure, 12 Market Square and the former Sutter subdivision lands closed session direction. Is there anything in that report that anyone has any questions or comments about? Seeing none. Executive Services, Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board updates. Is there anything in that report anyone has any comments or questions about? Seeing none. So we'll look for a motion that council consent to the approval of the following routine items. The minutes of the regular session of council dated 28th of October 2025 be adopted as presented, that the Market Square Advisory Committee and the Municipal Heritage Committee minutes of October 22nd through October 3rd, 2025 be received for information, that the correspondence for information items dated November 10th, 2025 be received, the council receive for information the Executive Services update on the public parking bylaw review project report, that council receive for information the Boards and Advisory Committee's monthly report for October 2025. That council receive for information the Growth and Infrastructure 12 Market Square and former Sutter subdivision lands closed session direction report. That council receive for information the Executive Services Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board updates report. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further, yep, go ahead, Mike.
I just want to make sure that, Matthew, I'm not sure that the Bay of Quinte Marketing Workshop, that's advertised, that you know what I mean? That, well, here's the services being presented, you know what I mean? On November 26th at the, 8 p.m. And there's, you know what I mean, the technology and the using of digital marketing, that's advertised. So a lot of the businesses in town, they had, as long as they're aware that we've advertised it. I hate to see somebody say, well, I didn't know anything about it. You know what I mean? So as long as it's advertised that they get it, then can't say that you never knew about it.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is in addition to the Bay of Quinte marketing that, plans for us to put out information on that and direct correspondence through our partners at the Chamber of Commerce. I'm confident it'll be covered.
Great. And Councillor Hicks, did you want to comment on that or no?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Shank, for mentioning that. Much appreciated. Yeah, it's an important date, so thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else before we call for the vote? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Items for consideration: financial and IT services report, procurement bylaw, and KPMG follow-up report. Then Ms. Hamill, I think, are you going to speak to this first? Whenever you're settled in, then the floor will be yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Troy and I are here to present to you tonight a follow-up report on our procurement bylaw review and a follow-up to the KPMG report that was completed, as well as an update to our procurement bylaw. So Council saw back in 2024 a report that was produced by KPMG that highlighted a number of areas for improvement that were grouped into about 14 different recommendations. You will see in the attachment to the report all of those recommendations that have been outlined and the ways that staff have addressed each one of those recommendations. So I'll leave you to kind of read through those at your leisure. There is a lot of information and a lot of work that's happening and has already happened and will continue to happen by our department, but I will just go through and highlight some of the reoccurring action items that we've been able to pull out of this recommendations from KPMG. So first and foremost, we're very grateful to council and their willingness to include an investment into the dedicated procurement officer that we have in Troy Ginchard, who was with me tonight. That investment into a specific position that has dedicated time, specialty, and resources into procurement will pay great dividends over time, and it already has. We've seen great progress in this department, and we now have dedicated resources to be able to support our procurement processes, which previously were less specified within one particular department. Finance did oversee things, but there wasn't as direct attention to it. So that's been a good change that we've seen over time, and our departments have been really receptive of that. That's kind of the biggest takeaway that we've heard thus far, is just having a resource on our own internal staff that we're able to guide our staff on what the right way is to do things. That has become very clear, and I know Troy will touch on that a little bit further in his experience that he's had with that thus far. Having that individual in the role also provides segregation of duties. That was a big thing that came out in the KPMG report, and having a finance lens on top of the departmental lens as we move through our procurements. So that was a big piece of that. Troy will speak on the other thing in the report, obviously, is the actual update to the bylaw itself. Troy's going to add a little bit to that at the end. I'm just going to keep going through the remainder of the action items that we have done. So in addition to the investment into our dedicated procurement officer, we also approved the conflict of interest policy, which covered off some missing pieces that was previously missing for our staff. So now we have a formalized process to declare conflict of interest, and those specifically related to procurement. So again, it's not saying that our staff have no involvement if there is a conflict. They just can't be involved in certain parts along the way. So they can't be involved in scoring, but we have, we're a small community, and we're going to have areas where there could be a perceived conflict, but they will not have involvement in those procurements. So that was covered on the conflict of interest policy. One of the other great changes that we've seen across the organization is the rollout of citation, which is being used for a number of different initiatives, but one of them that we are going to see a continued benefit is the rollout of training to staff. So it's an online portal that all of our staff have an account with. We can roll out if there's been an update to a policy, if there's been a change to a formalized process. They get issued to all staff that are relevant to that particular policy. They have to acknowledge that they've read it. There's like a record and a timestamp that they've received and understand the material that's in there. So it's a bit of a tracking tool that we have as management to ensure that those involved in procurement processes are trained, and we can keep up on refresher training annually as well, or more frequently. Again, that leads us into some of the internal processes. So in the bylaw, you'll also see that it does reference some of our internal processes. So the bylaw is going to outline what we can and cannot do, and our internal process is going to look at how we're going to do those things. Those will come after the bylaw has been settled and council's comfortable with the material that's within the bylaw. Then we'll look to some of our internal processes that Troy is able to now focus on and be able to to develop, to keep up to date, and to train our staff on those processes. Again, I think that was one of the big things that was missing previously, was just having some dedicated support to our staff to be able to know what their roles and responsibilities were, and we're able to focus on that now with the investment into this dedicated procurement position. I do want to highlight one additional thing that came in the recommendations from KPMG, and that's around a whistleblower program. So they made a couple different references to that being a recommendation. We did look into that offering as like a third-party hosted program. The price tag is relatively high. It's of over $10,000 for us to be able to support that. It's staff's opinion that that recommendation perhaps wasn't specifically tailored to Greater Napanee. There are very limited, if any, municipalities of our size that would do the amount of procurement that we do, that would have a formalized whistleblower program like that. They really are tailored to kind of your bigger organizations, not even necessarily bigger municipalities. However, it is an option, and if it's one that council would like to consider, we can certainly report back specifically on that particular item. But we feel that we can build enough internal processes to support an in-house whistleblower program through our HR department, who's generally excluded from procurement processes for the most part, which we can still do an anonymous reporting mechanism for staff to be able to report any instances that they feel should be addressed. So that is staff's recommendation on that particular piece. But again, we're happy to have council's feedback if they have a different view on that particular area. Before I turn it back over to Troy to go over some of the details of the bylaw, does council have any questions related to the KPMG report or the action items that staff have taken to date?
Council, do you have any questions to date? Go ahead, Councilor Shank.
No, and I'm not sure if it's Troy or you that's going to handle this, but under $10,000, I understand that. Am I jumping the gun here with the method of procurement emergency purchases?
A touch, but we can certainly talk about it. Yep.
Do you want, so the mayor, so am I jumping the gun again?
I guess let's write it out and see where it ends up. But Mike, we won't forget about it for sure. So. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So with this, I think one of the things I would say is we'd actually like to thank council for, leaning in to some procurement in the past that did not go the right way, from my opinion. Doing a very exhaustive and thorough investigation to how the corporation might do better, how we might ensure not only that we perform procurement in the most transparent and efficient way, but be seen to be doing that. From that perspective, I would say the KPMG forensic review was a productive exercise and a fruitful exercise, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank council for their role in that.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Troy's up.
Thank you, Your Worship. To council, I come tonight to give you the first draft for your review of the purchasing bylaw. With that, since the inception of my role, I've had the chance and opportunity to sit back and review the current bylaw that was in place, as well as take a look at a lot of areas of risk through the KPMG report on areas that we needed to focus on. Through that endeavor, we met with each department independently and as a group with SLT, CLT, and as well as each group independently as well to hear what worked, what didn't work, what were some of their challenges with the procurement process. One thing out of all of those meetings that I always like to present to is since the inception of my role, we've observed noticeable differences already with the increase of communication and transparency across all departments. Proactively now, teams and departments are approaching the finance department, specifically the purchasing department myself, asking questions on how do we handle this, what do we do, and what's outlined in our bylaw. So in discussion with Ellen on that, we see a positive reaction with that because there's different levels of communication and transparency that is putting some stop points on a lot of areas of procurement. I always encourage the departments to come to me first to talk about the beginning of their projects to ensure that we can set them on the right path for success. So with this new purchasing bylaw that we have in place with tonight, there's a few areas, as Councillor Schenk kind of mentioned, about emergency purchases. We've outlined in detail the emergency purchase process, as well as updated thresholds. And within the emergency purchase thresholds, you'll see within that there is a $10,000 and $50,000 and $100,000 threshold, as well as with that additional layers of approvals through that with multiple approval authorities within that as well. The other thing that we want to really kind of hone into as well to bring your attention to is the thresholds in the final appendix there with all of the charts that you'll see. Some of that now has gone up to $50,000 for departments to have 3 written quotes to, again, have the transparency within finance group to bring that forward to us before final approval so that we can exactly see what's getting approved. And there's an additional layer there for approvals with that with the treasurer. Anything over $50,000 is now going to have a formal tendering bid through our online portal. And we're already successfully doing that. We've been through some training over the last few months as well, is how can we utilize that tendering portal to its fullest with some supplier evaluations on that, vendor management, and some of the other pricing programs that are involved with it as well. Further to that, I look forward to your feedback of the current bylaw that we have in front of you tonight, and welcome to take any questions at this time.
Great, thanks, Troy. I'll go to Mike first to make sure he got his question answered.
Thank you very much. This is a great job. I have, my only concern is that don't take this wrong. I always have the wrong way of saying it, but not that I'm nickel and dime, but it says under $10,000, if not in operating budget. When I see that line in there, if not in operating budget, all right, the submit report to council, the next available activity report. I just like to take that if not in operating budget out, is because I've seen over the years where, well, it was in the operating budget, we just took it in the operating budget, but oh, by the end of the year, by November, oh, Chump's, our operating budget is blown, and now we have to go back after them, but council has no idea that we got there because we had an emergency purchase in between. So communication is number one dealing with council. You can't say that we didn't give you the bill that we had to purchase these 1 or 2 emergency purchases or 3 or 4 or whatever that happened throughout the year. This is how we have a running total, how we got to where we are. All right. So when we know about it, then what I hate is being blindsided and say, oh, well, that operating budget was blown because we had 3 or 4. So if you could just take that, if not an operating budget out and just submit a report, say, hey guys, we had an emergency. We went through the process. We went through the appropriate channels with the correct staff at that level. This is what it is. This is what we needed. Okay. Yeah. We were abreast of it. That's all. Now I might be all wrong, but that's.
Well, we'll let Ellen come in. Go ahead, Ellen.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Schenk. No, great feedback. This is exactly why we want to have this conversation with council, and we're looking forward to having your guys' input on pieces specific to that. So certainly something that we can look at and bring back with amended language. The intent of that was the under 10K, if there was a small emergency purchase that's kind of where it comes in a little bit. I really don't want to say gray area in this conversation, but it is a bit of a gray area. Is it an emergency purchase if it's under $10,000, or is that an operating cost because a piece of a furnace went that needs to be replaced that is under $10,000? So that was the reasoning there, but certainly happy to remove that. And if council wants anything that was outside of planned maintenance, if you will, reported to council, we can certainly make sure that is built in there.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Schenk.
Just to give you an example, how do I say this? What I've seen in my time is so somebody goes ahead and purchases something for $9,950. It's in the operating budget. Then when next week comes in, purchase something else for $9,950. I'm under my 10,000. Council had no idea, but it said it's in their operating budget. Then I stand there and I'm fuming, and I'm trying to go ahead and say, I know what they did. Everybody else knows what they did. but I'd be in jail if I could do it. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why it just takes that level of insecurity and lack of communication right out of it, then everybody knows what's going on. That's all. I've just seen some stuff, so.
Great, thanks, thanks, Mike. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, through your worship. So on page 22, item 42.5, says Mayor and Town Council approves large purchase over 100,000. So anything under 100,000 is not going to come to council? Is that, or am I just misunderstanding this?
Through your worship, so approval from council is over $100,000. So that will mean that we would need your, like by resolution approval to do that particular procurement. If it's under 100,000, so between 50 and 100,000, and it's budgeted, and we've gone through the RFP process, council will get a report for information, but we don't necessarily require an approval because that's been delegated through this bylaw for us to be able to execute that procurement.
Okay, so that's not, isn't falling under your emergency stuff. This is stuff that's just strictly in the budget. We've budgeted it for, not gonna have surprises. Awesome. And I do want to say, as well, reading through the KPMG report there, and what you've got accomplished and what's being worked on, it's a bang up job. You're doing a fantastic job. And I really want to thank you for all the effort you're putting into this to get us on the straight and narrow. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor Cowart. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, your worship. Hi, great report. I agree with the deputy mayor. There's been a lot of work done and it's appreciated. Approved vendors list. Are you working on creating an approved vendors list for those emergency purchases for day-to-day operations that don't have to go through the procurement portal?
Through your worship to Councillor Hicks. The vendor list is not dedicated to emergency purchases. In meeting with each and every department, this question did come up. We do have relationships and contracts with approved vendors. Moving forward, what we've done is, again, in our policy that we're going to outline, one of the things is we're challenging the departments to come up with a rostered vendor list. And moving forward, we would like to review those rostered vendor lists at least every 3 to 5 years to take it to market to ensure competition.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. Okay, that's great. Thank you. I have a question about inventory, which I know is somewhat, it's part of, but not a day-to-day. But for instance, utilities, like they have to have an inventory of spare parts. Public Works has an inventory of spare parts. How often is a thorough inventory taken and a value put on that? Because for insurance are we self-insured? Or no, we're insured through a third party. Okay. So for insurance purposes, I think not today necessarily, but I think that's an important step. Fleet, the arena, there's supplies at the arena, perhaps parts for the refrigeration units. There's money there. But do we know how much money is tied up in that inventory?
Through your worship to Councillor Hicks. Great question. No, we don't know how much. And that is something that we have highlighted as well, even from a financial reporting standpoint at year end, for example, in terms of what our inventory values are. That's not being currently done. But it is a step forward to strive towards and something that we can consider both on the procurement side, just also on financial reporting in general. Inventory is something that we do not track at this time.
Is it, so it is something that could be tracked and that we could put something into play to have each department use a standard format for all departments to use, like where possible, but to get that information on the books somewhere?
Yes, that's something that we will explore for sure.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to add to that, I think what both the procurement bylaw and processes and other items that the teams are working on shows evolution of maturity. So in terms of inventory management, I would say that's a goal that we're going to shoot for. I think the next thing on our list is standardization of work order systems. Moving to standardization of inventory systems. It's bringing a degree of predictability and standardization across the corporation. And we're starting at the policy level. And as we start to move, row by row, as it were, inventory will be on that list. But right now we're putting a framework in place. And so that's where we're at in sort of our journey.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? Just briefly, I'm going to reiterate what we've already heard this evening. It's refreshing to see such a robust procurement process, policy, bylaw. I think we all have learned what happens if that doesn't happen. So we as a corporation have grown and moved forward very quickly. And I just want to thank staff for all the hard work that they put into this right from day one, and look forward to seeing the final bylaws. So.
Get mad at me.
Yeah.
I didn't hold the button down. Somebody's gonna get mad. Transparency. And that's what we've stressed in the last 3 years, is totally openness and transparency. So everybody knows exactly what's going on. So that's why kudos, and I support it 100%.
Thanks, Councillor Shank. And if there is nothing else, we do have a staff recommendation that council receive for information, the information, financial IT and services report, procurement bylaw, and KPMG follow-up report. And further, council acknowledges the actions taken by staff to address the recommendations outlined in the KPMG procurement process review report. And further, that council directs staff to bring back the procurement bylaw for adoption to the next available meeting. And further, that council accepts this report as having met the reporting requirement under resolution 442/24, and direct that the motion be removed from the resolution tracker. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks. Thanks again, folks. Moving on, we've got financial and IT services pre-budget report, state of reserves, unfunded capital, and debt obligations. And Ellen, you're up.
Thank you, Your Worship. So moving on to this next report, this is one of a series of pre-budget reports that staff intend to bring to council in advance of the formal tabling of the budget in the new year. This one is intended to highlight to council some of the state of our finances generally, so some updates on our reserve balances, our unfunded capital, and our debt obligations. I do just want to kind of start off by saying that I feel good about the direction that we're headed in these areas. We're doing a good job at managing each one of these tools. Although we have some work to do, we're headed in the right direction. So I just want to start with that, and then we can kind of move into the details of the report. So looking at our reserves, the municipality holds two different types of reserves. We have discretionary reserves and obligatory reserves. So discretionary reserves can be used to support various investments at council's direction. We do have them bucketed, if you will, into a number of discretionary reserves. However, council does still hold the ability to redirect those priorities if there is a desire to do so. Those buckets can be moved around if the priorities do change over time. But currently, you will see in the attachment the scope of reserves that we currently have. They're sitting at the end of 2025. Again, we're not to the end of 2025, so all of these numbers are projected and estimated and unaudited and all of the disclaimers. But we're looking at around 5.6 million on the town side of discretionary reserves. I do want to note that utility reserves are not included in this report, and the issue with those is that most of those reserves are being attributed to the wastewater treatment plant, which is an evolving project, and those numbers are moving daily. So we weren't able to provide an accurate balance on those at this point in time. However, the use of those is being towards the wastewater treatment plant, which will come kind of when the project wraps up. So in addition to our discretionary reserves, we also have obligatory reserves, which are more legislated, and council does not have the same sort of flexibility on where they can and cannot direct those funds to. For us in Greater Napanee, those are all currently development charges, and you'll see an outline of those in the report as well. Our DCs right now are sitting at around $11 million, and again, those are used to support growth-related investments, as outlined in our DC background study. We are making some good grounds to build up our reserves, both on the DC side due to the growth that we're experiencing and in our discretionary reserve. So we have annual contributions to a number of our reserves that are now kind of built into our budget. And you can see those there in the report for your reference. I guess I'll break there. Does council have any questions or any discussion they'd like to have on the state of our reserves?
Councillor Hicks.
Thank you through you, Your Worship. Just one question, Ellen, and that is on page 5. Under discretionary physician recruitment, 33,497. That's commitment amount is going to the gifting agreement, is that right?
Through your worship, no, it's not supporting that. It's still supporting the former contracted agreements with the doctor recruitment or physician programs, where we have those paybacks too.
And is this going to be the last, that's the last of it? Once this is paid out, the physician recruitment process is not going to be reinstated? Well, sorry, let me rephrase that. There's nothing, there's nothing right now on the books once this is paid out in 2025, at the end of 2025, that's it.
Through your worship, there are a couple that go beyond 2025. I can get you updated information on our outstanding commitments to those agreements. I believe there are still 2 or 3. 2? Are we down to 2? But most of that is funded through this reserve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. If there's nothing else, go ahead, Alan.
Okay, so moving on to unfunded capital. We have had some brief conversations on this before, so it's not new information to council, but an important part of where our finances sit currently. So we do have a significant amount of unfinanced capital on our books. We discussed this at the last meeting, but just to be clear, unfunded capital, also unfunded and unfinanced are used interchangeably. So you'll see me use either one of those terms. I haven't found a favorite yet. So that is money that we have already spent. Those bills are paid, but at the time that the money was spent, they did not have a dedicated funding source attached to them. So we either need to have taxation dollars to support that. We can look at debt. We can use the use of reserves, but we have to have a funding source attached to those. So the ones that we have on the books currently are being funded through annual contributions through the levy, and we have been making annual commitments to pay those down. And you'll see the kind of schedule again attached in the report of what the annual payments are that we are making to that amount of unfunded capital. In addition to that, as the mayor had outlined in the budget directive, we are working on some policies and a process to be able to get this unfunded capital dealt with as quickly as we can without going back to the taxpayer to do so. So this is where we're looking for council's endorsement to bring back a policy as it's related to land sales. So our growth and infrastructure team has gone through a detailed analysis of our land inventory, and we'll be looking to bring back a recommendation to council that future land sales outside of a couple specified areas, for example, Market Square, our industrial park, some recreation parcels, will be redirected back to unfunded capital. And what that will do is pay down this debt, if you will. It's not actually debt, it's just a payment that we owe to ourselves, but that will pay that down quicker. It is staff's intention to continue to recommend to council that we don't lower the amount of our annual contribution towards unfunded capital when one gets paid off. For example, the fire hall in Roblin is the first one to come off. When that one's paid down, the money that's allocated to that envelope of money would move up to a different envelope of unfinanced capital. Same process would apply when we do, if council's supportive of doing lump sum payments from land sale proceeds. Again, we would look to lower the term of the, again, debt, if you will, and shorten the amount of time that we have to have this on our books, rather than decrease the amount that they're contributing to year over year. Any questions on unfunded capital?
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
So Ellen, great job again. It's great to have all the books in order now. Your ARL, so you're still under the two and what we have. So I understand the concept. What you're doing is to pay off these unfunded capital expenditures that we had. And so I agree with the policy that what you're doing. May I ask, yes, and I totally agree with what you're going to do is you're not going to go ahead and lower our repayment. So we're going to pay our basically debt off as quickly as possible. And I agree with selling the lands that get this down so we could have more. May I ask, where does that money going to go? I know on the books it's showing that you're paying off the debt, but is that going to be as our debt limit decreases and our balance increases, are we putting that into something that will have a higher rate of return? Or are you looking at any of that, or I'm way jumping the gun on this one? You know what I mean? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
So through your worship, so a couple pieces to pick apart there. So currently the issue is that we've spent money that we never earned. So we didn't have the money in the bank account to pay those bills, but we did because we have reserves. So all we're doing is replenishing that. The concern is that honestly, our cash flow isn't super fantastic. So we're just replenishing a pot of money that needed to get replenished back to where it was. If we get to a point where we're not seeing good investment yields just in our bank accounts, then we can look to that. We do have some outside investments, but we just haven't had high enough.
So Ellen, sorry, I was dreaming ahead to the better days, but we're on the right track. So let's replenish those reserves. So in case we have some serious problems and we have a fleet reserve, so we can have the trucks that are operating and the 02 and the 06 and, the other problems that we have. So yeah, we're on the right track. So I'm very happy the way the process is now and the reserve building that we're doing. I was jumping a little bit too far ahead again with the happiness of what we might be able to be, but that might be in a couple of years or whatever.
And I think we will get there, Mike. So go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I think Ellen alluded to this, but you'll recall that the mayor issued a budget directive to staff challenging us on a couple different fronts. One of them was to pay off the unfunded capital debts as quickly as possible without burdening the taxpayer, given the current economic climate we're in. Similarly, it was to increase recreational amenities, again, without burdening the taxpayer. And so land sales, and Mr. Nobes and his team have done an excellent job identifying areas where we've effectively land banked, where we can disperse of those assets and achieve those outcomes. And then once we're able to eliminate that debt, it will be council's decision what you want to do with that money. We'll, of course, recommend that we save that money for a rainy day, but that is council's privilege to choose.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Go ahead, Mike.
No, Matthew, I totally agree with you. And Alan, we're on the right track. It's just that a dump truck 10 years ago cost $30,000 or $300,000. Today, a dump truck costs $300,000 or $600,000. Everything's doubled. So when you figure what the appreciation alone and what the percentage increase is, and it can't always come from, the taxpayer, that owns the land. So we have to increase our revenue source, all right, because of our expenses. So what can we increase as our revenue besides selling everything? So enticing businesses here and doing other businesses here to increase our revenue source is definitely, is definitely going to pay dividends further down the line. So no, I agree with the mayor and what he's done and what you guys are doing.
Yep, thanks, Mike. When I go into the office and I see a smile on Ellen's face, it makes me happy. So if there's nothing else, Ellen, you can continue on.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, if there's no further questions from council on that, I can briefly touch on our debt obligations. We are in a very good position when it comes to debt. We carry very limited debt. Currently, we only have one outstanding loan. We are looking at two additional ones, as council is well aware. One for the fire truck that council approved a couple of meetings ago, and then, of course, the larger debenture that we will be taking on the wastewater treatment plant for around $25 million. So that will be a big investment for the community. We all know the importance of that. I just want to highlight for council that the municipality is required to stay within the ARL, which Councillor Schenk had mentioned previously, which is our annual repayment limit, which is a threshold that's set by the province that limits the amount of funds that can go towards the repayment of debt by a municipality. Our current ARL is around $50 to $60 million in debt if taken over 20 years. So for the wastewater treatment plant, the repayment on that 25 million is 1.6, and we are well within what our ARL is, even when we take on the funding for the wastewater treatment plant. So I just wanted to highlight that for council. And again, if there's any questions on debt, I'm happy to take those now.
Is there any questions? Seeing none, for simple people like me, Ellen, we got lots of room on our credit card is what you're saying. Okay, continue on.
I have nothing formal to add. I'm just available if council has any other questions or comments regarding the state of our financials as it relates to our reserves and our unfunded capital and our debt obligations.
Is there anything further for Alan? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the financial IT services pre-budget report, state of the reserves, unfunded capital and debt obligations, and further that council directs staff to bring back a policy to formalize direction to staff that, unless otherwise directed by council, the proceeds of all land sales be directed to pay off the town's outstanding balance of unfunded capital debt. Moved by Councillor Schenk, second by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Growth and infrastructure municipal support resolution request. And Mr. Nobes, I think you're going to deal with that.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to council, I'm here to speak on the request from Atura Power for a municipal support resolution for their proposed battery energy storage project, which would represent phase 2. So as council is well aware, phase 1 is well underway. A lot of the site works are very much underway. Battery containers are continuing to be installed. A lot of the underground infrastructure is predominantly in place. The berm work and plantings are underway. So it's really starting to come together quite nicely for that phase 1 project. So tonight I'll speak on Atura's proposed phase 2 project, which council would have heard about previously at a former meeting from Atura, where this IESO round of procurement, they're looking for projects to be awarded in June of 2026, and those projects would be coming into commercial operation 2028, 2029 area, and they would be for 20-year durations. So this project from Atura is looking at a 300 megawatt battery energy storage system, and this would be located northeast of phase 1 that's currently underway. So approximately 530 meters north of Highway 33, and approximately 550 meters west from the properties to the east, which contain a number of residential uses along Highway 33. The site would constitute approximately 15 acres in area, comprising of berm work, battery container units themselves, and internal road network. And it would very much be an extension of the project that's already underway on the ground. So Atura held a public open house in June of this year. General comments and questions that came about from the community were a general notion of support for the project as a whole. There was an interest in seeing what the overall development site would look like from a bird's eye view perspective, just for residents to see what sort of impact the project might have on agricultural uses in the vicinity, predominantly to the east. There were some questions around general operations, the IESO procurement process itself, fire safety, and questions about proximity to Lake Ontario as it relates to potential hazards associated with batteries and their operations. Staff understand that Atura provided responses to all of the questions that were raised, and there are no outstanding questions of the community at this time. Atura proposes a healthy community benefits fund in the amount of $600,000 per year for the 20-year duration of the project, which would also have automatic extensions if the IESO were to award the project to Atura and extend beyond the 20 years. The community benefit fund would also be extended automatically. Atura also proposes to propose $100,000 per year from the award of the contract, if successful, to the date of commercial delivery, and that would be intended to cover municipal expenses associated with processing applications and really getting the project from concept to reality overall. So tonight, Atura is looking for the municipal support resolution for their project, and staff are recommending that council do pass that municipal support resolution, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Michael. Is there any questions or comments for Michael with respect to the presentation or the report that's in front of us? Yep, go ahead, Mike.
So my only question is that going through the Exhibit A, and it says the proper identification numbers, all the PIN numbers. So what Atura went ahead and showed us beforehand where it was going to be, you know, the proximity closer, these pins match that picture? Not that I distrust anybody, but I just want to, you know what I mean? It's, you know, before I say I do, I want to make sure I do.
Yeah, so through your worship, there are a couple of components here to control where it actually lands. So one being site plan approval, we would, if awarded, they would need to go again through site plan approval where we would lock in the location and all of the built form features. A lot of this is really dictated by, you know, potential noise impacts and mitigation measures from sensitive uses in the area, pushing it away. But the pins, yes, are representative of where this would be on the ground. The reason there are 3 listed is the transmission line passes through the properties all the way through to the switchyard. That's why you see 3 there instead of just the 1.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Mike. Is there, no, that's good. That's why we're here. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the growth and infrastructure municipal support resolution request, Atura and Napanee Battery Energy Storage System Phase 2 report, and further that council approve a support resolution for the Atura Napanee Battery Energy Storage System Phase 2 project on PIN 45107/0075, 45107/0076, and 45107/0077 as shown in the attached Exhibit A prescribed form. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And we are right on time for our legislated break. So I think we'll take 10 minutes and come back at about 20 to 9. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for your indulgence. Next up on the agenda is Growth and Infrastructure Services Utilities Financial Plan. And Ms. Kelly, are you going to present that along with Ms. Hamill?
Through your worship, before you have our utilities financial plan. So the financial plan is a requirement for our municipal drinking water license renewal. As you know, we have two drinking water systems here in Greater Napanee, our Dafo plant and our Sandhurst Shores drinking water system, and they are subject to municipal drinking water licenses and drinking water works permits. So these documents last 5 years, and we're required to reapply every 5 years. So the current documents expire, I believe, in July of this year or July of next year, but must be submitted to the ministry in January to start their review process and updating the documents. So without going into too much detail, these licenses and permits basically govern how we operate our system. So they speak to the types of pumps we use, the discharge rates, and several other things. One of the requirements of this is the utilities financial plan, specifically a water financial plan. So what they're wanting to know as part of this application process is that we have a plan in place to continue to fund our drinking water systems for the foreseeable future or the term of these licenses and permits. So as you'll see before you, we have proposed a financial plan that begins in 2026 and goes through to 2031 as interestingly enough, the permits and licenses are 5 years, but they require the financial plan to look at a term of 6 years. So one important thing to note is that these are specific to water, so they don't include our wastewater finances. And the other thing that I'd like to note is that these are not the end-all be-all document. So our finance team has put this together as a plan moving forward. However, it could be updated tomorrow and changed. It's more of a guideline or a reference document for us to refer to and to show that we have, the funds to continue to operate these successfully. I don't know if you had anything further to add, but we're just looking for your support to endorse these documents. And after this, our compliance coordinator will continue with her application process. There's a number of other things. We do some raw water assessments and look at some diagrams and show pictures of our distribution system. There's a lot of information she's putting together, and this financial plan is just a small piece of that. And then one of the other requirements is that this financial plan gets submitted to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Thanks, Christy. So yeah, just to add for council's awareness, our financial plan was built off our 2023 actuals, given that that's the most recent financial data that we had in audited form. So we've built our estimates off of that. I will also highlight that built into this on the revenue projection side does include a 5% increase to rates. Again, this is embedded within this document for this exercise, but it is fully at council's discretion to set those rates. They have not formally been set at that, nor are we asking council to do that tonight. It's just what's been used for a projection to be able to build out this plan.
Great. Thank you, ladies. Is there any questions or comments with respect to the presentation of the reports in front of us? Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So my question is this is a projected, till 2031 business plan. Now, with the growth that you have with new subdivisions going in and new housing and possibly new large industrial, do we have the capacity, or is that in this plan also for, for our water?
Sorry, through your worship. So you're speaking, can I just clarify, you're speaking to like output from the facility itself?
Yeah, it's like, we were at sewage, we had to spend, council and taxpayers had to spend $75 million. Thank goodness we had the grants. So we had to finance 25 million. So by 2031, with the growth that we have in the municipality, are we going to be at the same thing with our water plan saying that we're gonna have to spend another $25 million or whatever, or $75 million on that. Is that projected in your business plan? I just want to see if, can I sleep well for next 6 years and don't have to worry I have to spend a whole lot of money?
So through your worship, that is not in the plan in the next 6 years. As far as we're aware, that there should be, we should be able to successfully grow our community based on the rated capacity and output of our existing water treatment plant. Two things to note here. An annual report will come to you usually in late January, early February. That speaks to our average daily flow from the previous year, so we'll have a better idea next year. I can't speak to the actual percentage of what it was last year, but we had lots of available capacity at that time. And just a reminder that we're currently undergoing a utilities master plan. So that process is going to, it's taken a lot of growth-related information, a lot of things that Michael's team has already on the books, essentially, or proposed developments in the area in consideration. And it's what it's going to look to do is give us a clear picture of, you know, if you are going to build this area out in the next however many years, you're going to need this, this, and this to support it, and that sort of thing. So hopefully the intent of that utilities master plan is to give us a clear picture for our department moving forward. So that's ongoing, and we hope, you know, early next year or mid next year, we'll have an update on that for council.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Christy. Is there anything else? Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you. That, what you just said, Christy, just,
Oh, yeah.
it's the planning and the foresight that staff is using is wonderful to see. So thank you to everybody, even the ones that aren't here tonight. If you're watching, thank you, which you probably aren't because your workday is done. But thanks again.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything further? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information, growth and infrastructure services, utilities financial plan report, and further council approve the town of Greater Napanee water system projected statement of financial operations as of December 31st, 2023, projected 2026 to 2031. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Norrie. Is there no further comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. I just can't believe we're talking 2030s. Next matter, Executive Services Aquatics Advisory Committee membership. And Mr. Grant, you're going to speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council. An update and recommendation with respect to the Aquatics Committee. So the Aquatics Committee, formerly the Pool Advisory Committee, there has been a couple of resignations from the committee, so we're now down from 6 to 3. In addition to that, the committees had challenges prior to some of the resignations meeting quorum. There has been at least 3 attempts to try to do so, and it has been a bit of a struggle. So with that in mind, you know, what staff is recommending is, one, we accept the resignations of the committee members and thank them for their service. That's, you know, at this time, rather than going out for new members, given that there is less than a year left in the term, we would recommend putting a pause on the Aquatics Committee at this time, revisiting it at the beginning of the next term of council, which time we'll be installing all new committee members as we would, and folding the duties and the mandate of the Aquatics Committee into the Recreation Committee. You know, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the recommendations before you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there any questions or comments with respect to the presentation or the report that's in front of us this evening? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Executive Services Aquatics Advisory Committee membership report, and further that council accept with regrets the resignations from Emma Arnold, Mary Woods, and Deb Lowry from the Aquatics Advisory Committee, and further that council direct that meetings of the Aquatics Advisory Committee be paused for the remainder of 22-26 term, and that the mandate be temporarily referred to the Recreation Advisory Committee, and further that council recommend that the 2026-2030 term of council revisit this decision when setting new committee mandates, and further that council support the appointment of the remaining members of the Aquatics Advisory Committee to the Recreation Advisory Committee should they so desire. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. Yep, go ahead, Mike.
It's kind of emotional to me for the sole reason is that Dave Pennell spearheaded this and fought for how long for it. So for saying this is almost like sacrilegious that we're even doing this, but I understand that we're doing it because there isn't the committee, that you're not getting a quorum. I can understand it, but Dave, if you're up there, you know, we're not forgetting about you. It's just that right now we just don't have a quorum to go ahead and do it. It kind of touches me a bit because I know how passionate he was about this. And so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Shank. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you, through your worship. Mike, I do agree with you 100% on that. Dave and I, we've shared the same passion for a swimming pool. I still carry that same passion on. We have to try to find something we can afford at some point. But we're just not getting the members interested in it at the moment. When Dave passed away, the light kind of passed away with it for this type of thing. But I would like to recognize the work and the commitment that all the people on the Aquatics Committee over the years for everything they've done. And it hasn't gone unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Executive Services recommendations for 2026 election bylaw and policy updates. And I see Madam Clerk going to the front. So whenever you get settled in there, Jess, the floor of yours.
Good evening, Your Worship. This report is brought to you as we are preparing for both our upcoming Ward 3 by-election and the general election next year. There are some decisions that we will need council input into. Technically, the deadline for these is May 1, but I did just want to get them ahead of you well in advance. Council's already given direction that we are going to continue using an alternative voting method in 2026. At this point, I'm looking for feedback on the election sign bylaw and the use of corporate resources bylaw. I am only recommending a very minor change to the election sign bylaw, just to make it very, very clear that election signs means physical signs out in public places permanently or semi-permanently installed, and does not refer to pamphlets and brochures and any door knocking materials candidates may wish to distribute, just to make sure that that is very, very clear for everyone who's participating in the election. But if there are any other provisions with the election sign bylaw that council wanted to give input into, I would be happy to take those comments under consideration. Also, if council wanted to pass on any feedback to County of Lennox and Addington, because they have a bylaw regulating election signs on county roads, that is certainly feedback that we could pass along as well. Under the use of corporate resources policy, the goal of this policy is to ensure that all candidates are on an equal footing. Sitting members don't have any advantage over non-sitting candidates, and that town resources are not being used to support any candidates' election efforts. A couple changes we're planning to make, just a general formatting overhaul to align with our other policies. Making it very clear we've always followed this rule, but if a third party wants to host an all-candidate meeting in one of our halls, that is fine because all candidates have the same access to that resource. We'd also like to, we're going to trial this for the by-election, and if it's successful, we'll plan to make it a permanent part of our practice, but to host candidate profiles on our website so that one piece of feedback we got a lot during the last election was voters saying, I don't know where to find any information about who these people on the ballot are. So we'd like to host just a very brief standard format profile for all of the candidates. If it becomes problematic, we will have some capacity in there for the clerk to axe the program. But I think it has the potential to be a very good voter education tool. And then lastly, just a couple of things, just to clarify and expand language so that we're having reasonable policies around election campaign materials. We'd like to make it clear that candidates can't be using town staff or equipment or assets as props or using exclusive access that members might have because you have key cards. But if you want to take a photo in Conservation Park, that's fine. Everybody has access to Conservation Park. Nobody has any special advantage by taking pictures in our parks. I think we just like to get a very clear rule and make sure it's the same rule for everybody. And then also just adding in some language around, in order to be considered attempting to mimic town branding, it would have to be a combination of fonts and colors and style, and like very obviously an attempt to mimic town branding in order to be considered offside. But if somebody thinks blue and orange is a beautiful color combination, they are welcome to use it in their promotional materials. Those are the recommendations we have. If there's anything else council wants to provide input into, I'm happy to take that feedback.
Great, thank you. Madam Clerk, is there any questions or comments for Jess with respect to her report and her presentation? Seeing none, yeah, the only thing I can see, Jess, and I don't know what it's like for the provincial or federal elections, but with respect to the County of Lennox and Anthem and the restrictions they have on respect to county roads, I know there's a lot of folks that sometimes just don't realize that County Road 41 is actually a county road and it's not one of our roads, right? So when you have folks that are putting out signs, I don't think they realize that there's a difference, right? So, you know, maybe, and I'm not sure what happens in other lower tier governments, but as far as the signage goes, what you say in Loyalist or Stone Mills or Yankton Highlands, it's just, I can see where it can be somewhat confusing for some folks that one road you can put a sign in the ditch, but another road you can't.
So through your worship, we did find a few other municipalities have their GIS departments have made these lovely interactive maps that you can click on a road and it'll tell you if it's election signs allowed, not allowed. They obviously are in a similar situation to us where the county says no and the lower tier says yes. So we are working with our GIS staff to try and have something like that up and running for the next election period, assuming that none of the rules change between now and then.
Okay, well, I think that might be helpful, but go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calver.
I was always under the, through your worship, I was always under the assumption that any election signs that we put up had to be on like private property. Is that changing, or am I missing something here?
So through your worship, at the county level, all election signs need to be on private property, back off the property line, far enough that they're on private property with the property owner's consent, preferably. The lower tiers in Lennox and Addington initially discussed also having the same rule apply to municipal road allowances, but in 2022, Napanee Town Council felt that that was too much of a restriction, and they said that on our roads, signs would still be allowed to be within the road allowance as long as it's far back enough from the paved road service that it's not interfering, and it's not allowed to be in somebody's front lawn if they don't want it there. Like technically it's public roads, but you can't put a sign in front of somebody's house that they don't want there.
No, understandably, I must have misunderstood that in 2022. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Is there anything else? Okay, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the executive services recommendations for 2026 election bylaw and policy update report, and further council direct staff to bring forward the necessary bylaw amendments to implement the recommended changes as described in the report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Executive Services Resolution Tracker and Mandate Update. And Mr. Grant, you're going to speak to that?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council, you will recall, as recently as September 16th, we brought forward a process that initiated 2-month updates. So an update every 2 months on council resolution tracker, as well as the mandate items that council approved in the fall of 2024. And today, this evening, is the first of those bi-monthly reports. So since the last update on September 16th, council will see that we have completed 18 resolutions on the resolution tracker, and we currently have 28 in progress. So for the council resolution tracker, those are items that their council directly asks us for, or they come forward in the form of a recommendation, and there's a resolution to approve those. Those 18 include the implementation of a resolution tracker reporting process, updates to the parks bylaw, updates to speed limits on a portion of County Road 1, storage of Napanee Beaver archives and related access protocols at North Fredericksburg Hall, completion of 2023 resolution and later 2025 resolutions related to the CN rail corridor north of the 401, a report to council on administrative cell phone use, an overview of the municipal accommodation tax and a pending preparation of a bylaw of the same, a report to update council on the final cost of the East Street reconstruction project and a funding strategy to accompany that, an overview of what is entailed with the development of a rooming house bylaw, a review of a parking request at the Kids Mondo Child Care Center in relation to new provincial parking legislation, an overview report on the feasibility of a municipal aggregate site, development and adoption of new park use fees, the completion of a community request related to the Little Forest project, the presentation of a development plan for in-town trails related to the recommendations from the Ad Hoc Committee on Trails, and the creation of a lease agreement for the youth services hub at the Napanee Rail Station. Council can see a complete listing of the council resolution items that have been completed in Appendix A and an ongoing progress report in Appendix B. In addition to that, staff continues to make significant progress on the mandate items that we brought forward in the fall of 2024, and council will recall the mandate letter that you approved is general principles and goals for the chief administrative officer, and I've then delegated out those goals through specific strategies and projects to members of the senior leadership team, which then cascade into work plans and all the way down. So over the past few months, we've completed the 2023 financial audit and a reconciliation of corporate accounts. That was a fairly significant undertaking. And I am pleased to say, as recently as today, I understand that 2024 is well in hand and we're making excellent progress on that. So our books are in order. We've completion and the ongoing adoption of corporate communication service standards, updates to the parks bylaw and encampment protocol, and the successful completion of negotiations and the signing of a contract with the union representing paid on-call firefighters. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this report.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there any questions or comments from Mr. Grant with respect to the report of his presentation this evening?
Move staff recommendation.
We have Councillor Shank making the motion to move staff recommendation and a seconder by Deputy Mayor Carver. The recommendation is to receive the information that Executive Services Resolution Tracker and Mandate Update Report, and Council direct that any resolutions identified as complete that remain on the resolution tracker be removed from the tracker. If there's not, yep, go ahead, Mike.
Just want to give you guys a compliment also, right, in Jessica and Matthew, that showing exactly what has been transpired and what has been done, what your mandate was, and how you delegated that down through to get all the jobs done. So you can see that the work is being done and done effectively, and we can take this off the tracker so we can hopefully not create any more new ones, but we're operating the business of a municipality is being done. So thank you to staff and your SLT team.
Thank you, Councillor Shank. Is there anything further? Councillor Hicks.
Thank you. Quick question through you, Your Worship. Yeah, great job. Whew, that was a lot. That was a year. When you say take it off the resolution tracker, can you just sort of archive it, but like still keep it? Because I think it really is a testament to in one spot where all the work They still exist, okay. And I'd also like to say, I really like the bucket name. I think that's great, where you've sort of got everything into, you know, supportive, accountable culture. I like how that's been put together, so thank you. It's great, great work.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything further? If not, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion is on the floor. Opposed, motion is carried. Bylaws, we have a bylaw this evening, number 2025-0074, to appoint municipal law enforcement officers, night patrol. This is an annual appointment of public works staff for the night patrol enforcement. Look for a motion to put it on the floor, moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. We're at first, second, and finally passed this 10th day of November 2025. All in favor of the motion, opposed, motion is carried. Information reports from members. Do any members have any information reports they'd like to share with us this evening? Seeing none. Inquiries. Are there any inquiries, any members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Norrie.
Thank you. Like most councillors, we received numerous emails from Cherrywood area about the sale of land. I forwarded about 12 to Michael and David, who've advised they're going to respond. But I thought, well, Michael's here, maybe he'd give them, because I know some are watching, a little history, like the concerns about they were never notified that this is going to be sold, that it's not parkland, that they could put sea containers for unhoused on there. I was wondering if you could just take a couple of minutes and put some of these fires out to explain to the public, if you could do it tonight. Thank you.
Yep, sure. And through your worship to members of council. So the land that has been recently listed for sale on the open market was part of the overall surplus land listing that was publicly notified on August 27th. So on the town website, under public notices, the declaration of surplus land, this land is identified on that list. So it identifies the subject property, and it notes that the existing trail access at the north limit of the site would be retained in this land. So we're not looking to surplus all of that property. We look to leave that trail very much intact with enough room outside of it for maintenance obligations and the like. So this would result in a lot that would be a very similar size to those that are in the existing subdivision on that side of the road, on the west side of Cherrywood. The property itself came to the town as the Westbridge Estates subdivision was developed over the course of time through multiple phases. It appears that this block was provided in a previous phase, and the larger now developed parkland to the west was developed in a subsequent phase. So meaning this was almost like I'll say a bridge of parkland to I'll say the crown jewel parkland to the west. So what we're left with is a piece of property that we have a trail running through, and to the south of that there is a ample space for a suitable building envelope on this property. The land is identified in the zoning bylaw as residential type 4, so that permits single detached and semi-detached homes. It does not permit shipping container style homes. But the predominant concerns that staff have heard to date are around potential neighborhood impacts due to a different style of home being introduced into the area. So if council has the desire, it can certainly be a matter that staff could initiate a rezoning or a zoning amendment to limit the built form to a single detached home. A lot of the comments and concerns we've been receiving at a staff level are related to the potential to build a duplex or a semi-detached, which is permitted under the zoning. But if council wish to directly address the concerns that some area residents have made, there is that option to council. The R4 zoning as a whole does allow a semi-detached, and it appears that over the course of time, the developer and the builder have predominantly focused on single detached in this overall neighborhood. So if that is something council wishes to pursue, we can certainly do that, but no shipping containers would not be permitted in any case.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I know how to answer some of the emails now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nobes. Thank you, Councillor Norrie. And just, maybe just further that, Michael, is, can you explain how much control we have over the style, I guess, of the housing that would be built on that lot? I guess in comparison to what's in that neighborhood now.
Through your worship, under the Planning Act today, single detached homes, actually any residential use that is proposing fewer than 10 units is fully exempt from site plan control. Formerly, under previous iterations of the Planning Act, the municipality could enact a site plan control bylaw that really looked at aesthetic features and I'll say street front facing amenities for certain properties that are going through that process, but that has been removed through recent bills passed to amend this Planning Act. So meaning we really don't have much control over the aesthetics of any residential development that goes in. However, I would say council could look to request proposed renderings of homes for offers that come in, for example, if council would like to consider that. But from a legislative perspective, we would not have the control today to mandate a specific built form. What we do have is the legislative capacity to say you can put a single detached here, a semi-detached there, a townhouse here, an apartment there. But the way in which it looks, we really don't have that control because the Planning Act has been amended to remove that. And the intent of that was to really spur on more additional residential development given the housing crisis.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nobes. I don't know if there's any. Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So this is probably not the time or place, but if you could bring that back, all right, at the next council meeting, that we have a proper zoning to have a single family dwelling, because that was one of the major concerns that when the addition that was going to go on behind is you're saying we're all single family. Now you're going to put a multi-residential. In the emails that I had received is exactly what you were stating. So if we can change the zoning in that, all right, of saying that the only thing that can go in there is a single family because it's consistent with what is in that whole area. So why not do that? I'm in favor of doing it.
Yep. Go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through your worship. Did I understand though, Michael, in order to limit it to a single family, we would actually have to do a zoning change, a bylaw, like a zoning bylaw change to say that specific lot can only have a single family residence, not a semi-detached and not a duplex?
Through your worship, yes, that is correct. However, would just bring to council's awareness the passage of Bill 23 a couple of years ago does permit, as of right, any residential unit, so meaning any single detached, semi-detached, or townhouse unit can install up to 2 additional units per property. So meaning all of the existing single detached homes that exist in the municipality today they do have the permission to add up to 2 additional units. However, a lot of them will be tripped up in the mandatory parking requirement, which needs to be provided on the private property. Not a lot of newer style subdivisions are going to be able to leverage that given the constraint of parking. But yes, there would be that. If council wishes to do so, we can certainly bring back a bylaw, very quickly, I would say, as quickly as we legislatively can, to only allow the built form of a single detached.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
In reference to the letter and the shipping containers, I think what the resident was trying to convey was they do not want to see a very modern, modular looking home, which I agree they do tend to look like stacked shipping containers, if you will. And I would have to say I probably wouldn't want to live next door to that either. So whoever buys the lot, hopefully they'll take into consideration that, they have neighbors and fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. I would like to state though, there was never any intent at all ever to put in a playground there or a park. There is a perfectly good, beautiful playground, literally steps away. You can I could probably throw a rock and hit the swing set. So yeah, this is definitely, from my perspective, a surplus lot where that money can go towards really enhancing recreational properties that already exist in the town. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? Yep, go ahead, Councillor Nori.
I have one more inquiry if we finish this one, that's all.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I forgot you told me that you had another one, so we'll move on to that one then. Go ahead.
I wasn't going to bring this up again, but I was in a store today that deals with contractors, and their sign said, due to the uncertainty of the Canada Post, they no longer will be mailing out invoices. It's all email. Now, I know I wasn't going to bring anything more about our utilities, because I know sometime in 2026, they're experimenting to see if the two of us that get utility bills will get them online if we wish. But during the last strike, I asked our staff, if people at the end of the month if there's a strike, how do they get their information? 2 staff have to answer the phone and tell them what their bill is. Excuse me. So you can imagine that the manpower that would take. What would it take that I can't just go on my account, have a password, and find out what I owe in the event we get held hostage again by the Canada Post? Could they look into that, please?
Yeah, and I think Mr. Grant wants to comment on that. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I can take a look at what it would take for people to log in real time and get a status. I don't know the answer to that. What I do know is e-billing is actively being worked on as we speak. I anticipate that in 2026, we'll be able to roll that out. Right now, what staff is working on is an HR system that is automating time cards. So we don't have to fill out sort of Excel sheets anymore, which is fair. Finance is also working on the system to do e-billing so that people can have your bills delivered right to your inbox. And I would suggest that is the goal, to make that the norm and not the exception. And I can certainly look into what it would take for people to be able to log in at any time and find that out.
Thank you very much. That's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Nori. Is there anything else? And I just want to thank staff, Mr. Nobes and Mr. Grant, for we put you on the spot sometimes. So thank you for having the knowledge in your head that you can answer our questions. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to notices of motion. And Councillor Nori, I think you had one. Now, did you get your questions answered with respect to the report that we had earlier in the consent agenda, or no?
I had a discussion with the clerk, and I still want to put the motion ahead, minus the last part. If I may be able to put that motion on the floor and see if I get a seconder, I can explain the whole thing briefly.
Okay, so we have Councillor Nori put the motion on the floor, Councillor Shank seconded it. And is it the motion as is written, Bob, or is it, did you want to make a
No,
friendly
I'm just
amendment to it?
removing the 2 15-minute accessible parking spots, removing them.
Okay, so the
I'll
motion will be,
explain that one.
the motion will be that 6 parking spaces on the east side of John Street from Dundas Street east to the north be 15 minutes only parking, and then to remove the include 2 15-minute accessible parking spaces?
Correct. It's just 6 spots, 15 minutes. Yes,
Okay, there we go. We got the motion, and go ahead.
Just briefly, I removed the handicap spots because you have to go through the provincial government. That could take a long time. So this all came out months ago from a local pharmacist who said a lot of elderly people are using his pharmacy and the one across the road, even though they have parking up the road, and they're having trouble getting into the pharmacies for their medical supplies because they can't park anywhere. So I did some digging and I talked to people at the bank, a local bakery and so on. They're having the same problem where they're losing customers because spots are being taken up for 2 hours. Now, I also explained to them, having been in enforcement, the odds of having a bylaw standing there is minimal. So it would be like fishing, a hit and miss. But if we get the signs up and maybe some warnings for a while, and bylaw just does some warnings, maybe that'll be enough to get people to realize that these stores need help because if people can't park, they're going to go to other pharmacies where they have free parking and we lose businesses downtown. So I'd like to try this with the 6 spots, see how it goes, and that's it. That's my motion.
Okay, thank you. So just so I got to clear my mind, you want to make this a permanent thing right now, or do you want to try it on a trial basis first?
No permanent. I mean, it's just, we want no parking signs or 15-minute parking signs for those 6 spots, please. Similar to what you have in front of the post office.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns? We do have a motion on the floor, and now is the time to have a conversation. Was that a yes or a no? If there's nothing further, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next matter, new business. I don't believe we have any new business unless there's something I'm not aware of. Announcements. Is there anyone that would like to make any announcements? Seeing none, CAO's remarks. Mr. Grant, do you have any remarks you would like to share with us?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. And just briefly, again, I'd like to thank council for their supports, particularly for finance, as they unpacked, what was inevitably a lot of work to get the 2023 audit up and completed, the additional support to finance, and again, the foresight and the support to move us toward a more modern procurement system. We're grateful.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Forward calendars. Anything in the forward calendar that anyone would like to speak to, ask any questions of? Seeing none. I'll look for a motion to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Greater Napanee. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cower, second by Councillor Martin. Ready first, second, and finally passed. This 10th day of November, 2025. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks. Another productive meeting. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.